Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Asphalian's webinar review of hot topics in regulatory and safety and outlook into 2025. Before starting, a couple of things to take into consideration. The webinar will last for about 60 minutes. In case you have any questions, please submit them in the chat and we will reply them by email. We will also send you the presentation as well as the link to the recording shortly. Today, our experts will explore the hottest topics currently shaping the regulatory landscape through a comprehensive overview of recent updates and an insightful glimpse into what lies ahead in 2025. Before we begin the webinar, our colleague Michael Schaub will provide a brief introduction to the company. Michael, please, when you're ready.
Thank you, Lydia, and welcome everyone. I'm excited to take a moment to introduce Asphalion before we dive into this webinar. This year, we are celebrating our 25th anniversary, a milestone that fills us with pride as we reflect on how much Asphalion has grown. Over these years, we have built a team of more than 180 dedicated professionals and have collaborated with over 1,000 clients on numerous projects. Our offices span across Barcelona, Madrid, Pamplona, Munich, and London, and we continue to expand our global reach. Let's explore the diverse operational areas we specialize in. Our drug development consulting team delivers strategic advice that guides our clients through complex regulatory landscapes. Our medical and scientific writing team excels in reviewing and preparing all types of non-clinical and clinical documents. CMC is all about compliance and optimized timelines, and our experts know exactly what to do in each situation. Lifecycle management is one of our largest areas of operation, where we assist companies with a wide range of regulatory procedures around the globe. Full support for quality matters and audits is the most recent addition to our services, and we can now offer all assistance in this field as well. Our e-submission team not only assures perfect electronic submissions for all regions, but also efficient project management for these last challenging weeks prior to a critical deadline. For ISO IDMP, RIMS, and all aspects of data management in our regulatory world, our clients count on our specialists to address their needs. Our vigilance group is one of our largest teams, and our experts cover all aspects of safety, from clinical development all the way to post-marketing. Last but not least, our dedicated MedTech team offers comprehensive support for all medical device procedures and requirements. On the next slide, we look at Asphalian's evolution over the years. We began right from the start with large international marketing authorization applications. We expanded to medical device service in 2006, launched full pharmacovigilance service in 2007, achieved our first ECT submission in 2008, just to name some of these early milestones. Our journey has been one of continuous growth, marked by the opening of new offices and the expansion of our capabilities and services. And in 2025, as a little spoiler, our most notable milestone is a strong push in the digitalization of all our services. Finally, the following slide illustrates our end-to-end support for all stages of product lifecycle, from drug discovery all the way through to post-authorization. If you ever have any questions or need support, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can call us, send an email to info@asphalion.com, or complete the form on our website. We'll respond promptly to address your inquiries. Now, let's proceed with the regulatory and safety highlights. Back to you, Lydia.
Thank you, Michael, for this fantastic presentation. Now we will dive into the webinar, beginning with lifecycle management presented by Pablo Lopez. Pablo, please, whenever you are ready.
Hello, Lydia. I'm ready. Thank you very much. My name is Pablo Lopez. I'm working in lifecycle management, and it's a pleasure for me to talk about some important topics that are to be expected in 2025 in this field in lifecycle management. We're going to talk about the implementation of the amended European Variation Regulation, about the web-based e-application form in the product lifecycle management of the EMA, the United Kingdom Windsor Framework, and the clinical data publication relaunch. Next slide, please. Well, the first topic, the implementation of the amended European Variation Regulation. As you probably know, the implementation of the Commission delegated regulation amending the last regulation related to variations procedures is applicable as of 1 of January of 2025. So we're gonna sum up the main updates of this regulation, which is very interesting for the companies because now it is in force. The first update is the Type 1A annual update. It's mandatory for variations with implementation date from 1 of January of 2025. All Type 1A variations should be collected and submitted as a single submission. It's important to consider the timelines of the submission of this Type 1A annual update, because we need to take as a reference the first variation to be implemented in this annual update. I mean, we need to submit this annual update not earlier than 9 months and not later than 12 months after the first implementation date. For example, if we take the first implementation date of the year in which it's mandatory to include in this annual report, we need to submit as a first date 1 of October of 2025. And the last day to submit this annual report is 1 of January of 2026. So the submission date will depend on the first implementation date reported, may change on the year. It will vary. It's important to know this. Also, this annual update is not mandatory if you don't have any Type 1A variation implemented in the last 12 months. So not needed to submit. We have some exceptions in this annual report. The variations Type 1A immediate that require immediate notification will not be included in this annual update. Regarding the grouping or supergrouping, the Type 1A variation can be submitted anytime if they are part of a supergrouping with another Type 1 immediate variations or part of a major variation in a grouping 1V or 1-2 related variations. Regarding the variations that are already implemented in 2024, could be submitted as a single change as usual and is not mandatory to include them in the annual update. If you have any exceptional case, there is a guideline of the CMDH that you can consult if your particular case is included in these exceptional cases to be submitted individually. Next slide, please. Regarding another changes, very important in this regulation, the mandatory work sharing. The work sharing is a submission of a single application for a variation that affects more than one marketing authorization from the same marketing authorization holder. Now it's mandatory. When with the last regulation, it was optional. So any variation, Type 1V, Type 2, or group variations that involves several marketing authorization from the same holder, as I said, it's mandatory to submit this work sharing. Regarding the supergrouping, it's a new concept included in this regulation. It's a submission of a single application for one or more Type 1 and Type 1 immediate variations that affects several marketing authorizations from the same marketing authorization. It's not mandatory, and it's related 1A and 1A immediate variations. It's important to say that the variation regulation is applicable now, it's in force, but the variation guideline, I mean, the categories and typification of variations, which is not the same than the regulation, it's included in the regulation, it's currently under review, and it is expected by Q2 of 2025. So it's not in force completely. Next slide, please. Well, the second topic that we are going to talk about is the web-based e-application form of the product lifecycle management of the EMA. The web-based e-application form can be used for all the products in Europe and the procedures starting point in 11 of February of 2025. However, the interactive PDF can be used and remains available for use for all variation procedures because there are still some technical limitations, and in these cases, they might encourage the applicants to use this interactive PDF form as usual. In the timelines are to be defined when this e-application form web-based will be mandatory. It's not defined at the moment, but the EMA will update this information. For veterinary medicines, the web-based e-application form will be used for testing, and this date has to be defined too. I have included in this slide a summary of actions and tips for the upcoming change, just for your information, because the EMA included in the last meeting regarding this topic. You can change the slide, please, Lydia. Regarding the Windsor framework, the Windsor framework came into effect on 1 of January of 2025. This Windsor framework amends the Northern Ireland Protocol. From 1 of January of 2025, the MHRA is responsible for regulating all medicines across UK. So now applications authorized via a centralized procedure in Europe are no longer valid in UK, and national MA applications are required to obtain UK-wide authorizations. To finish, the last topic that I'm going to talk about is the clinical data publication, the policy 0070, step 2 of the EMA. At the moment, in 2023, the EMA announced their decision to restart the clinical data publication activities for centralized procedures of initial marketing authorization applications for new active substance that receive a CHMP opinion in September 2023 or onwards. Now EMA has shared their plans in regards to step 2. This step 2 apply that all applications that receive a positive or negative CHMP opinion, including marketing authorization applications, extension of indications, and line extensions from Q2 of 2025, will be included in this initiative, regardless of the status of the active substance. Withdrawn applications will be included. However, this step will exclude generic, hybrid, and biosimilar. For legacy procedures, access to documents requests related to clinical data will trigger the clinical data publication procedure. Thank you very much. This is all from my side.
Thank you very much, Pablo. And now we are moving into chemistry, manufacturing, and controls with Juan Diego Santoyo. Juan Diego, please.
Thank you, Lydia. Good afternoon, everyone. So I will share with you some key perspective of on the regulatory chemistry, manufacturing, and control landscape. So this presentation will spotlight two major areas. First, implementation of the amendment variation regulation, and second, the growing trend of outsourcing regulatory and CNC activity. So let's begin. One of the most significant developments we'll see in this year is the implementation of the amendment variation regulation. So, and this regulation in January 1st of this year, as my colleague Pablo explained, and will substantially reshape how pharmaceutical companies manage post-approval change. The variation guidelines is currently under review, and the updated version is expected by Q2 of this year. So this new guideline aims to simplify the overall regulatory process while also reflecting the latest scientific and technical advancements. So lessons learned from recent submission are shaping these revisions, ensuring that the post-approval process for variation is practical, streamlined, and more predictable. So the main CNC update in the guidelines are the following. So first one is simplification and updating. A key objective is to reduce the procedural complexity. So the introduction and procedural guidance section has been simplified and updated to reflect current practice at EMA and also on national competent authorities. So these refinements will help us to navigate requirements more efficiently. The next one is the annex modifications. There will also be a revision of the annexes, which enumerate various categories, condition and required documents, and the intent is to incorporate both recent scientific insights and technical innovation. By doing so, the revisit annexes should present clear pathway, so categorizing and justifying product variation. Specific proposals. One interesting aspect is the incorporation of Article 5 recommendation for enforcing variation. So there will also be a specific proposal for administrative change and modification related to herbal products, ensuring the regulation remains inclusive for different product types. Risk-based categorization. So to enhance efficiency and scientific accuracy, the new guidelines aims to refine how variation for biological active substance and finished product are categorized, including proposal to downgrade certain type of category, type 2 variation category when scientifically justified. So the risk-based approach is leading to a more targeted regulatory system. Harmonization for biological and chemical products. Here, lastly, we can expect more alignment between categories for chemical and biological products. And this includes harmonization of specification attributes, testing methods, manufacturing of details, and packaging requirements. Before we move into the second major topic, just remember that these regulatory updates require planning. So if you are not already preparing for the Q2 2025 revisit guidance release, now is the time to assess how this change will affect to your organization, specifically in terms of timelines, data requirements, and internal workflows. So please, next slide. Let me explain now the steady rise in outsourcing regulatory CNC activities with the pharmaceutical landscape becoming more and more complex. Companies are increasing their reliance on specialized external partners for regulatory strategy, submission, and lifecycle management. So here we are listing the main benefits of outsourcing regulatory CNC activities. First one, the specialized expertise. So by partnering with a dedicated regulatory consultancy, companies gain access to a team of specialized professionals with in-depth knowledge and local and global regulatory requirements and guidelines. Operational efficiency, outsourcing frees internal resources and allowing companies to focus on the core competencies. Accelerate timelines. So external expert can streamline CNC documentation and submission processes, so helping to meet tight timelines and expedite market access. The project management system that enhances this project management system that also allows to monitor the project managers, so through which we can obtain quality indicators. And this metric might include, for instance, the number of the new activities kicked off in a given reporting period, the average time to complete projects, and also how to meet established deadlines. Next one, the strategic perspective. External teams can bring a broad overview of regulatory trends and best practice, so incorporating this insight into product strategy and also ensuring smoother approvals. The last one, that is the tailored support. In that case, whatever you need, a full-time equivalent arrangements or a project-based collaboration, outsourcing typically offers flexible solution. This makes it easy to escalate that or down based on your project and budget. So moving to the next slide, we are listing the main responsibilities and function in outsourcing models. First one is collaboration. So collaborating closely with technical personnel to compile and update CNC dossier components. So that allows us to provide timely inputs for project planning, evaluation, and decision making, as well as addressing any CNC regulatory query. Next one is assessment and analysis. So that also allows evaluating available technical and scientific CNC information for compliance with relevant regulatory requirements, performing gap analysis, and proposing solutions and strategy to remedy risks. Documentation support. So here, leading the timeline provision of global regulatory impact assessment for planned CNC change. Regulatory strategy, liaising with relevant global regulatory affairs function like product strategy, international strategy, LCM. So to initiate and oversee any development and implementation of regulatory submission plan for the CNC changes. And the last one, so sharing expertise that's allow us to promote knowledge exchange and development of regulatory expertise within regulatory affairs CNC. So in many cases, outsourcing is not simply about delegating tasks, it's about leveraging outside expertise to complement internal teams and create a robust and more efficient regulatory team. That's all from CNC side, so thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Juan Diego, for your presentation. And now let's have a look into regulatory operations data management with Sonia Tejeda. Sonia, welcome.
Hello. Thank you, Lydia. Thank you. I would like to highlight 3 of the most important topics inside data department that marketing authorization holders should be considering and to be expected in 2025. So the first topic will be the review of the data in the user interface of product management service integrated in PLM portal of the IMA. And I'm going to provide some tips important for these checks. For CAPS, the priority could be the review manufacturer details that are migrated from Siamet. Although it's important to review the rest of the data, the rest of the data migrated to SDMPD and Siamet. Is no additional information to be submitted to PMS. And it's important to take into account that PMS update data in real time after each variation is approved in Siamet. This is for CAPS. For non-CAPS, it's important to review all the data migrated from SDMPD to PMS as well. Ensure that the package has been submitted in SDMPD correctly and well migrated in PMS. For the product non-CAPS under the Union List of Critical Medicine, the new product has to be submitted by pack sizes, and the deadline is 15 days after approval. And all the new products will be submitted at pack size level. Maintain the data in SDMPD according to the life cycle of the product is important too. As it has been done so far. So check the correctness of your product data. If incorrect, you should to send ticket to the EMA and review the list of known issues that is published by the EMA. And this activity is important because PMS is one of the source of product information for many platforms. ESMP, ENF, API, ASU, RPM. So it's necessary for the product data to be harmonized and maintain the necessary quality. So please, the next slide, Lydia. Okay, the next topic, the important topic, will be the launch of the edit capability in PMS. Is the enrichment process. Is single update, so you can update the product, one product only at the moment. This process is for non-caps because and at the moment we have a deadline is December 2025 for the product that are under the union list critical medicine. So it's important to submit authorized and structured product data via PMS, including the manufacturer's pack size and data carrier identifier. For the data carrier identifier, it's only for non-caps at the moment, and it's recommended for product that has a API. It's optional for the rest of the product. The process is through chain requests. It's a process very friendly provided by the EMA. The process, the single product update is since January 2025, but we are going to have the possibility to update multiple products simultaneously through bulk update. This will be in two quarters of 2025. The enrichment manufactured and pack size through PMS API will be during two quarterly of 2025 as well. So please, sorry, I forget some. We have a deadline for this activity is December of 2025 for products that are under a union list critical medicine. Thank you. Next slide. Now, yes. Lydia, please, the next slide, the last. Thank you. Okay, so the third topic, important topic, would be the ESMP platform. This is the European Shortage Monitoring Platform. This will be delivered by the EMA on February 2025. This is important in order to manage the shortage. For providing this support, two kinds of reporting has to be required. So the marketing authorization holder are obliged to use this platform to report data for shortage for caps in normal circumstances if they have actual or potential shortage, and the marketing authorization holder can report data also for supply and availability in the following situation. If there are a crisis situation or for action for MSSG leads preparedness action. So in this case, this group requests the medicine in scope. And it's important that the company has a ISPOC. And during a crisis situation, the marketing authorization holder has to report data on centralized and national authorized medicine, which are part of a list of critical medicinal created for the specific crisis. So this is important because this platform contains templates that are prefilled with data elements from PMS. Therefore, this is necessary to maintain the data correctly as mentioned in PMS, but also in IRIS portal and in OMS. And that's all for data. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sonia, for this fantastic presentation. And now let's see what Josefa Aguiles from the MedTech department has to tell us. Josefa, when you're ready.
Thank you very much, Lydia. Welcome, everybody, and good afternoon from Unit MedTech. I'm going to start with the most important change of the year 2024. In the first slide, you can see three big changes. The first change is about MedTech Europe POP EBSCO statement of the necessary reform on MDR-UDR. During the EBSCO debate on the medical device regulation and in vitro diagnostic regulation, many member states emphasized the need for reform to ensure Europe's regulatory framework support public health, patient safety, and healthcare sustainability. the European medical technology industry support reform measures to reduce bureaucracy, improve efficiency, support innovation, and ensure effective governance. A thorough review of the UVDR and MDR is essential, and the European Commission should propose reform following the evaluation. The second change is about Artificial Intelligence Act. The European Artificial Intelligence Act established rules for the development, market placement, and use of the artificial intelligence system in Europe, focusing on the risk-based approach. The Act obligates artificial intelligence providers to ensure safety and rights protection throughout artificial intelligence systems life cycle with a European Artificial Intelligence Board. It is important to highlight the Act entered into force on August 1st, 2024. It means that the Act will become part of the legal system of Europe on August 1st, 2024. So after this date, the Act is legally applicable, but this date, August 1st, 2024, is not a deadline for manufacturers. The first change is about the Regulation 2024/1860. This European regulation introduced significant changes to previous regulation on medical device and in vitro diagnostic medical devices, with the aim of ensuring patient safety and high level of public health protection, avoiding potential market disruption. We can highlight three main chapters: the gradual rollout of EUDAMED, November 2024, the obligation to inform in case of interruption or discontinuation of supply, October 2024, and the extension of UVDR transitional period in July 2024. In the next slide, Lydia, we will continue with important changes to take account. Europe Orphan Medical Devices, EMEA, has launched a pilot program for expert panel to support the development and assessment of orphan medical devices in European Union. This pilot program offers free advice for the medical device expert panel to select manufacturers and notify bodies on the orphan device status and the data needed for their clinical evaluation. While the pilot program is currently scheduled to run until the end of 2025, the aim is to establish a long-term process to orphan device support. About Switzerland or SwissMed. The SwissMed medical device platform will be gradually introduced from August 6, 2024. It will consist on 2 modules, actors and devices, along with a public website, and align with the European EUDAMED system. In 2025, the device module will begin allowing some device registration in a stage. From July 1st, 2026, all devices on Swiss market must be registered in SwissMed with a deadline of December 31st, 2026 for manufacturer or their representative. Finally, we would like to mention the last guidance that have been published in the last quarter of 2024. Guidelines about regulatory status of ethylene oxide intended for the sterilization of medical devices, guidance on borderline between medical devices and medicinal products, guidance on qualification on in vitro diagnostic medical devices, guidance on the publication of the clinical investigation report or their summaries in the absence of the EUDAMED, and guidance about verification of manufacturer Class D UVD by notified body. On the next slide, Lydia. Now, let's begin with what is expected to happen during this year, 2025. First new is the European Commission has announced a pilot program for the coordinated assessment of clinical investigation and performance studies under MDR and UVDR. Member States, with the European Commission support, have launched a pilot program for coordinated assessment of clinical investigation and performance studies across multiple member states, according to Article 78 of MDR or 74 of UBDR. This pilot program enables sponsors to submit a single application for more harmonized interaction with member states involved in approvals. The second important news is about the next step of the Artificial Intelligence Act. The Artificial Intelligence Act shall apply from 2nd August 2026. This is the real deadline with some exceptions. For example, Chapter 1 and 2nd, General Provision and Provided Artificial Intelligence Practice, shall apply from the 2nd of February 2025. Chapter 3, Section 4, Notify Authorities and Notify Bodies, Chapter 5, about General Purpose Artificial Intelligence Models, Chapter 7, about Governance, Chapter 12, Penalties, and Article 78, confidentially, it shall apply from 2nd August 2025. Also, from the 2nd of November 2024, each member state shall identify the public authorities or bodies which supervise the respect of obligation under Union law protecting fundamental rights, including the right to non-discrimination in relation to the use of high-risk artificial intelligence system. The European Commission shall, no later than the 2nd of February 2026, provide guidelines specifying the practical implementation of the classification rules for high-risk artificial intelligence system with a comprehensive list of practical examples. In the next slide, you can see list the most important legal action to be carried out this year, 2025. Implementing regulation for for medical devices in the 2nd quarter of 2025, establishment of the expert panel of the orphan and pediatric device planned in the 2nd quarter of 2025, expansion of the list of the well-established technology planned in the 3rd quarter 2025, reclassification of the well-established technologies plan adoption in the last quarter of the 2025, and implementing rules regarding requirement to be met by notified bodies, plan adoption in the last quarter to 2025. On the other hand, work is being done on launching new guidance about breakthrough technology, guidance on orphan UBDs, guidance on samplings of technical documentation, guidance on certificates and their condition. And for an International Medical Device Regulation Forum, there are working groups for adverse event terminology, about artificial intelligence machine learning, about clinical evidence for in vitro diagnostic medical devices. Finally, and diverting our horizon to the American land, we would like to highlight the transitional period that they are going through after the political change, with an extract from the New York Times. FDA reinstalled fire medical device, food and legal staffers. As you can understand, this news complicates the situation of the ongoing files and raise doubts among those who want to present their products on the American market. With this action, many of the presumption meetings agreed upon were suspended, and although the normal rhythm is being reestablished, many of the workers have not returned, so it's not clear how this will affect them. Well, that is all from MedTech. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Josefa. Thanks for the presentation. And now we are going over to regulatory operations, submissions with Daniel Langa. Daniel, please.
Thank you, Lydia, and good afternoon, everybody. Today from Regulatory Operations Electronic Submission, we bring you a couple of highlights for consideration from this year onwards. Okay, the main one is the one that you are seeing on the screen. Is about the global implementation of ECTD 4.0. Okay, as you might be aware, so far we are using version 3.2.2. Okay, and this new version is going to replace this version. Is going to replace in some regions, but in other regions, for instance, take a look on the first row on this table. On Brazil is going to be the first implementation of ECTD. Okay, for instance, in Brazil they are not even using today ECTD. Okay, so but in other regions it's going to be a replace. Okay, so this is a screenshot taken from ICH web page. Okay, ICH web page is updated twice per year. Okay, so this is quite recent timelines. Okay, taken from January this year. The next update is going to be during the summer, about June, July. So main thing here is about the implementation, for instance, in Europe. Okay, since December last year, we started a pilot in Europe, and in principle, in theory, is going to be voluntary for CAPs from centralized procedures at some point during this year. Okay, 2025. Okay, on the opposite, for instance, on FDA, the pilot was completed. Okay, and since September last year, you can already submit a voluntary submission on ECTD 4.0. Okay, on Health Canada, for instance, they are planning to do the pilot this year, as well as from TGA from Australia. Also to take into account, Japan is the pioneer on ECTD 4.0 implementation. They already accept voluntary submission since 2022. Okay, so and if you take a look, it's going to be the first country when where ECTD 4.0 is going to be mandatory. Okay, from next year. Okay, 2026. Okay, so this is the global time frame. Okay, for all these regions. Okay, not all the regions that currently have ECTD implemented appears, okay, or express their need to join ECTD 4.0, but so far only those regions are planning technical pilots and already have, you know, implementation guidelines in place. Okay, so on the next slide, we can see further this first implementation on FDA. Okay, this voluntary implementation. Okay, since September 16 last year. Okay, both divisions of FDA, CDER and CBER, are accepting new regulatory application, but with one caveat, with not all the features that are allowed on ECTD 4.0. That is why they are only accepting new regulatory application. That is mean that you cannot do what is called on this new standard, you cannot do forward compatibility. So you cannot continue the life cycle of your dossier. That is why they are only allowing new regulatory applications starting, you know, from 001 ECTD sequence. Okay. On the other side, you can also send voluntary sample submission, you know, with dummy data, you know, just for testing, you know, your platform, your knowledge. You know, for doing that, there are some instructions on the web page that you can see at the bottom of the slide. Okay, where you can, you know, proactively submit this sample. Okay. On the next slide, taking a look on our region, on Europe. Okay, so since December last year, we started a pilot. Okay, we are so far on the first step. Okay, so there are planned 3 steps. Each of them is going to be done gradually. You know, once the step 1 is closed, we will pass through step 2 and so far. Okay. First step is just for tool vendors. Okay, so we cannot, neither, you know, holders, applicant, consultants can participate. It's only for tool vendors. Okay, for checking that we are calling the technical interoperability. Second step will be around the second quarter of this year. Okay, where potentially holders can start doing pilots together with their tool vendors, okay, checking more operations, life cycle operations, different formats, document reuse, and things like that. And we will hopefully finalize at some point during this year, Q3, Q4, with a completely open pilot for everybody, tool vendors and holders, you know, with all scenarios, okay, but just focus on centralized procedures, okay. What else on the next slide? This is the second topic that we wanted to highlight for this year onwards, okay. It's about the way that the safety submission is done on FDA, okay. So far, as you know, for the pre-marketing authorizations, the clinical trials on US, the INDs, okay, the safety reporting is done under an ECTD sequence, okay. This is the opposite that is done, you know, in other regions that where they are already using ICH E2B R2 standard, okay. So since the 1st of April of last year, okay, FDA introduced the possibility of using ICH E2B R3 standard, okay, for safety reporting submissions, okay, but from April the 1st of next year, 2026, is going to be mandatory, okay. So this is the main things, main topics to be aware of, okay. So get ready, trust on your partners, you know, receive advice, technical, regulatory advice, just get prepared, okay. So this is everything from electronic submission perspective. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Daniel, for this fantastic presentation. And now let's explore pharmacovigilance with our colleague, Vanessa Palau. Vanessa.
Thank you, Lydia, for the presentation. Good afternoon to everybody. Regarding the pharmacovigilance field, we would like to highlight 3 relevant news that have emerged during last year, 2024. The first one is related to changes in the updated module 16 of the Good Pharmacovigilance Practices, introducing significant changes to risk minimization measures and their evaluation. This update clarifies the role of risk minimization measures in the risk-benefit management cycle for medicinal products, and also provides updated definitions to better reflect current practices and emphasizing the use of mixed methods approaches for evaluating the effectiveness of these risk minimization measures, incorporating both qualitative and also quantitative data. Additionally, this guideline now acknowledges the role of digital applications as valuable tools in supporting risk minimization efforts. And these updates aim to enhance the safety monitoring of medicines within the European Union. In addition, another important aspect to be mentioned today are the changes affecting the implementation of the veterinary medicine regulation in the UK. This regulation introduces significant changes to the pharmacovigilance framework for veterinary medicines and amends to enhance the safety and efficacy monitoring veterinary medicinal products in UK. The regulation now requires marketing authorization holders to submit detailed annual pharmacovigilance reports to the Veterinary Medicines Directorate, and these reports must include comprehensive data on adverse events, product defects, and also any other safety concern which is related to veterinary medicinal products. Marketing authorization holders are mandated to develop and implement risk management plans for each veterinary medicinal product, and these plans must outline strategies for identifying, assessing, and mitigating any risks associated with the use of these veterinary medicines. The Veterinary Medicines Directorate is now required to make certain pharmacovigilance information publicly accessible, and these include summaries of safety concerns and also actions taken to address them, with the aim of enhancing transparency and public trust in veterinary medicine safety. And the regulation updates are designed to ensure that veterinary medicines in UK are used safely and effectively, with a strong emphasis on proactive risk management and transparent communication with the public. Next slide, Lydia, please. The last change that we would like to highlight is also an important update that have emerged in the vigilance field of medical devices. The MDCG group published two interesting documents regarding clinical investigation plan and also the investigator brochure that manufacturers should take into account when performing their clinical investigations. Concretely, the first one, the MDCG 2024.3, is a document that provides guidelines for the preparation of the clinical investigation plan for medical devices. And in terms of monitoring, this guide establishes that the clinical investigation plan must include a detailed monitoring plan to ensure the safety of participants and also the data integrity, describing the procedures to be carried out to manage adverse events and to ensure the traceability of the medical device during the study. Additionally, criteria and procedures must be defined for reporting and analyzing any deviation from the clinical investigation plan that may occur during the study conduction. It is also important to highlight that for combined studies, which include medical devices and medicinal products, the requirements of different regulations must be integrated, and ensuring that the mandatory elements of the medical device regulation are also included. And as a summary, this guide includes a template to help sponsors to structure their clinical investigation plan in an efficient and comprehensive way. And finally, the MDCG 2024.5 guide provides detailed guidelines for the preparation of the investigator brochure for clinical trials with medical devices and aims to support the sponsor in developing the report. These investigation brochures should include an objective and also a balanced presentation of the risk-benefit analysis of the medical device in order to ensure the safety of the medical device and its proper use. Additionally, it should also include information on the identification, also on the description of the medical device, the purpose of the investigation, the risk classification, the design of the medical device, and the manufacturing data of this device. So I would look to highlight that these two guides are essential for ensuring regulatory compliance and for properly structuring the plans and the documents which are needed in clinical research on medical devices. Next slide, Lydia, please. Okay, moving over, when analyzing the expectation for 2025 in the pharmacovigilance field, we will look to highlight two main guidelines that are likely to be published soon. These guidelines will have an impact on the routine pharmacovigilance activities carried out by the marketing authorization holders. The first guideline I would like to comment on concerns the Good Pharmacovigilance Practices Module 8, which is being updated by the Pharmacovigilance Risk Assessment Committee. This update aims to improve the planning and execution of post-authorization safety studies for medicinal products. However, until now, there is no publicly available information on the exact timing for the publication consultation of revision 4 of these guidelines, so we will have to wait for a while. The second guideline that I would like to focus on is the new European guidance on post-authorization measures to monitor safety and efficacy of novel therapy products that is being prepared by the Committee for Veterinary Medicinal Products, which shall be submitted for public consultation on the fourth quarter of this year, 2025. This initiative is framed within Annex 2 of the regulation, which establishes specific requirements for the authorization and supervision of veterinary medicines in the European Union. This guidance is expected to establish clear procedures for post-authorization monitoring of the safety and also of the efficacy of novel therapeutic products, ensuring that marketing authorization holders comply with the requirements laid down in Regulation 2019-6. And finally, next slide, Lydia, please. I would like to highlight also the multi-annual artificial intelligence work plan of the EMA, with several advancements in the integration of artificial intelligence in pharmacovigilance, with the goal of enhancing the safety and efficacy of the medicinal products. EMA has outlined a work plan that extends until 2028 and focusing on this year in 2025, the development of the guideline for the use of artificial intelligence throughout the medicine life cycle is expected, including its application in the pharmacovigilance field. There is also a plan to establish frameworks for implementing artificial intelligence tools to ensure the efficacy and safety of the medicinal products. And thus, EMA is committed to integrating artificial intelligence into pharmacovigilance in order to improve basically signal detection and also the management of adverse reactions, ensuring the safety and efficacy of the medicinal products which are currently in the market. And that's all from the PV unit. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. Thanks for the presentation. And finally, but equally important, development and scientific writing with our colleague, Elisa Jimenez. Elisa, please, when you're ready.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. So today from our department, we wanted to focus on 4 new relevant changes in the regulatory landscape. So the first highlight change in the past month has been concerning the update of the EMA guideline on the environmental risk assessment of medicinal product for human use, which became effective the last 1st September 2024. So for attendees who are not familiarized, the environmental risk assessment evaluates the potential risk of a medicinal product to the environment, and it involves understanding how the medicine interacts with the ecosystem. So this report must be presented as part of the MAA dossier. So this updated guideline provides a more complex, detailed, and refined framework for the ERA. So since we will not have enough time to enter in details today, we just wanted to highlight some of the general aspects to consider. So the ERA is required for all new marketing authorization application of medicinal product, regardless of their submission pathway, either for the centralized, decentralized, mutual recognition procedure, or centralized procedure, and irrespectively of the legal basis. There are some exceptions for the type 2 variation and extension application, where the ERA should be updated if there is an anticipated increase in environmental exposure, and is not required for the renewals of MAAs. So now this guideline distinguishes between risk assessment and hazard assessment. It incorporates additional aspects in the research and evaluation of data and in the labeling and risk mitigation, introduce testing strategies for specific mode of action, such as for the antibacterials and endocrine active substances. It also expands the risk assessment with tailored testing strategies and detailed evaluation procedures for persistent, accumulative, and toxic substances, as well as for the very persistent and very accumulative substances. It's also expanded to broader environmental compartments, such as the soil and the groundwater. And finally, we wanted to highlight that it's encouraged contacting the marketing authorization holders of the product to share the studies already done, for example, in the cases of generics, fixed dose combination, or mixed application, in order to minimize the number of tests to be reperformed in accordance with the 3R principles. So finally, as practical consideration, the applicants should expect a more complex, detailed, and strict ERA requirement. So it's advisable to plan accordingly the time and budget, as well as the early engagement with regulatory support if needed. So if we go to the next slide, please. The second change that we wanted to highlight is concerning the new fee regulation, which entered in force the last 1st January 2025. So this new fee regulation has implemented update on the fee structure, has introduced new administrative charge, revised the payment method and terms, and the renewal or introduction of certain fees. So here in this table, we present some examples of the procedure that has been impacted by major changes, such as the scientific advice, which now it's divided by 3 levels instead of 6 as previously. Now there is no distinction between the initial and the follow-up advice. And now there is a new distinction for novel methodologies and is subject to prepayment. They also to mention that the SME statute must be valid at the time of the submission, otherwise the incentive will not apply. So concerning the pre-submission activities, the fee is due at the submission of the letter of intent. And one additional fee will be charged each time the intended submission date is changed by more than 60 days. And there is no SME incentive in this occasion. For the initial MAA, now it will be divided by 9 different fees with no separate fees for additional strengths or form and presentation. And as well as the scientific advice, the SME incentive will be applicable only if it's valid as the time of the submission. Finally, the examination procedure, the fee is equivalent to the 30% of the initial fee with no SME incentive. Other services like procedures like pediatric application and orphan designation have been impacted with minor changes. And an application fee has been introduced but waived. So from the other hand, as I mentioned it before, some services like the scientific advice are now subject to prepayment. So meaning that the totality of the invoice must be paid as soon as is possible and when the invoice is received and before the start of procedure. For the other hand, we wanted to highlight that there is a new admin fee included for the application that are withdrawn within the validation period. And this impacted for procedures such as the scientific advice, initial MAAs, pediatric application, and also orphan designation, among others. So therefore, it is advisable to the applicants to be aware of the new fee regulation for their upcoming regulatory procedures. So in the next slide, please, Lydia. The third change that we wanted to present is concerning the implementation on the regulation on health technology assessment, which applies from the 12th January 2025. So the aim of this regulation is to increase the access of innovative medicine across Europe, evaluating the new technologies compared to the existing ones. Currently, each country does their own HTA report. However, with the new HTM framework is to bring together all the member states and combine their expertise to create one single HTA to reduce duplication of work and pool expertise. This work is done to accelerate the joint clinical assessment work. So concerning the process, when a company seeks marketing authorization from a new medicine, the HTA group will start to work immediately, meaning that the joint clinical assessment report will be ready very soon after the MAA is granted. This report will be taken by the member state and will be part of their decision-making process on whether to cover or not this new medicine in their reimbursement schemes. So the European Commission will facilitate the process by providing a secretariat, an IT platform, and identifying patients and clinicians to help in this work. For the other hand, the EMA will support this implementation in 3 areas: by supporting the timely conduct of the joint clinical assessment and providing relevant information from their own regulatory assessment, collaborating with parallel joint scientific consultation to give scientific advice to the technology developers, and facilitate generation of evidences that satisfy the needs of both the regulators and the HTA bodies. Also, with the information exchange on upcoming health technologies for planning purposes and for the horizon scanning. So this new HTA framework is applicable from now for all the new cancer medicines and advanced therapies seeking advice to the MAA. In the last slide, please, the final change that we wanted to present today is a change that is expected to be in 2025 and is concerning the update of the ICH E6R3 Good Clinical Practice Scientific Guideline. So this update guideline provides a new adapted quality standard to conduct more flexible trials, joining the so-called quality by design concept. Also recognizing that not one size fits all. while ensuring the rights and well-being of the trial participants that are protected. So the new structure is composed by the principle as the base and the Annex 1 and Annex 2. So concerning the principle, this update guideline encourage a risk-based and proportionate approach to the conduct of the trial. The principles are designed to be more flexible and adaptable to a broader range of clinical trials and is intended to support efficient approaches to the trials design and conduct, such as, for example, with the use of digital health technologies, and also indicates that the design and conducts may be supported by interest parties, such as the patient, advocacy groups, health professionals, to reduce the complexity and improve feasibility. So for the other side, the Annex 1 will be similar to the replace R2, but including adaptation based on the principles for the independent ethics committee, the investigator, and the sponsor. There is also a new section about data governance and also includes updated template for the IV protocol and management of essential document. Either the principles and the Annex 1 have been already adopted, but those will come into effect by July 2025. Finally, the Annex 2 will offer a guidance and examples to effectively apply the principles, including additional GCP consideration for non-traditional interventional clinical trials, focusing on the examples that incorporate unconventional elements such as the centralized and the pragmatic approach, and also the real-world data. So this annex is still under development and will be expected to be adopted by mid-2025. So this will be everything from our department that we wanted to highlight today to the attendees. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Elisa. So it's a wrap. Thank you very much to our speakers and to everyone who attended. We hope you enjoyed the webinar, and remember, you can still send us your questions at asphalion.com. Have a nice afternoon, everyone. Bye-bye.